You know what? Does anybody here know what land surveying is? Yes, that's right. When you survey, you kind of use the word again, but you're basically measuring what's out there in the real world, the land, the buildings, and so forth. That was a good answer, though. So, how many of you have seen somebody beside the road with one of these tripod things set up? I bet all of you have. That is what we call the field end of things. Surveying is broken down into two parts, basically field work and office work. And somebody goes out into the field, outside, outdoors, and works with all the spiders, bugs, snakes, and everything. And then they have to collect data about the information and so forth. And you guys are in 4th grade, right? So you should know a lot about math. Does everybody know what an angle is? Yeah. This instrument that Greg has done up here does nothing but measure angles and distances. And everybody knows what a distance is, right? So that's how we locate everything. We shoot angles and distances. But I want to give you a little bit of history on surveying, a little bit of let you know what the profession's about. Did you know that surveying is the oldest profession? No. You know the Egyptians were using surveying to lay out what? What were the Egyptians using surveying for? I need to call it something different. Yes, you.
Lay out bricks.
Lay out bricks. So what were they building with those bricks? You in the back, the young lady. The pyramid. And do you realize that the pyramids are built more precisely than we can really almost do today as surveyors? They're a master feat of surveying and engineering. And the accuracy of the pyramid is incredible. Now I got another question for you. Who's the most famous surveyor in America? You all know him. No, not right now. Historically, who would be the most famous surveyor that's ever been in America? There you go. George Washington was a surveyor. Did you guys know that?
No.
George Washington was a surveyor. I got another question for you. How many of you have heard of Mount Rushmore? Yeah. Who's on Mount Rushmore? Who haven't I called on? You right here in the front. Who else is on there besides George Washington? Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was also a surveyor. Who else was on there? You in the back, Emily. Thomas Jefferson was also a surveyor. The only person on Mount Rushmore that was not a surveyor was Teddy Roosevelt. And I don't know what was wrong with him, but he should have became a surveyor. So surveying at one time was the highest profession in our country. And what really has made it slip is the fact that we still work outside and we get sweaty and dirty, and so our profession has slipped a little bit. But at one time, surveying was the highest profession. A lot of you politicians were surveyors. The county surveyors and the city surveyors was what they would refer to as the learned person in town. They would go and ask that person about finances, about mathematics, and so forth. How many like math? You all like math. Well, what we do on a daily basis is nothing but mathematics. It's all mathematics, every bit of it. Okay? How many of you have heard of GPS? If I had asked that question 10 years ago, but none of you would have heard of it. Does anybody know what GPS stands for? I've called on you already. I've called on you. Anybody else have called on? Yes. That's a good try. Anybody else? Yeah, I'll call on you. Well, yeah, let me ask him first. I haven't called on him yet. That is very close. You actually must know somebody that knows it. You want to go? What is it? All right, your turn. Excellent. Global Positioning System. That's what it stands for. And who invented GPS? I'll give you a hint. Mr. Greg works for him when he doesn't work for me. The military, right? The United States military invented GPS. And before that, they was the Marine. But how many of you know how GPS works? Probably most everybody, but I'll call on you. Yes, that's the position you get. But what's it using to get to latitude and longitude? Anybody else? Yeah.
Signals from the satellite. Wait, what?
Well, they don't actually take pictures, but you're right. Signals of the satellite. Yeah. The GPS receives daily all the signals from the satellite. All day long, there's signals coming down from the satellite. Right now, there's signals coming down from the satellite. In fact, over here in my little magic box, I think I got a GPS receiver, but Greg's taking it. What do you do with that? I got it right here. This is one of the ones we use. And when you're in your automobile getting positioned, you're getting positioned roughly within 100 feet or so. This gets a position within 3 feet. So this can tell me on the Earth within a circle of 3 feet where I'm at on the Earth, which is pretty amazing, huh? Well, we have equipment. I didn't bring one today because they're all working. It can tell me where I am on the Earth to this much, to about 700ths of a foot, which would be how many inches? That's about 100 of a foot. Yeah. It's just under an inch. I want to say it's just under an inch. So our GPS that we use in the field is giving us exact, precise position. Now, why do we want all that information? Anybody know? Yeah. That's exactly right. We locate most of the time where things are, because we're surveyors, but they use GPS all the time to locate where people are. In fact, the military uses it with their jets, with the tanks, for everything, where the people, other assets are all the time. So, yeah, that's a great answer. We're basically, what we do as surveyors is we take the real world and we map it into a virtual world. How many of you know what virtual means? I haven't called on you yet. Oh, maybe I have, but go ahead.
Like not real, but like online.
Yeah, and I don't have a good definition of it, but it would be a computer-generated world. And as surveyors, we approximate the real world into a computer-generated world. And that's been evolving. In the early days of surveys, you know what they used to measure distances? Anybody? Yeah. In the very early days, they used the tall staff, which was called a rod. And that's still, that term rod is still out there today because some of the older legal descriptions use that. But they used a chain. It was very much just a long chain. It was 66 feet long, and they would measure distances with it. And they would go miles. The whole country is laid out by surveyors, except for the eastern seaboard. Majority of the country, majority of Florida, is laid out by mile sections. It was all measured by people 150 years ago with a steel chain and a compass. Can you imagine trying to pull a chain 66 feet all the way across Florida from here to the East Coast? And can you imagine with no roads? They were doing it with swamps and Indians shooting arrows at them and stuff. It was real treacherous work. And you know what they got paid? Usually a crew consisted of about 6 people. And that crew got paid, it changed, but on average was about $1 a mile. So for every mile they measured, they got a mile. They had to split it, and they had to pay for their food while they were out in the wilderness, all their supplies, because they can't out. Here in Florida, they go and survey miles and miles, and they'd be out in the woods for a long time. So, Greg, why don't you show them a little bit of what this thing does? This thing shoots angles and distances, and the way we locate everything, we have to have a reference line, and then we turn an angle and shoot a distance. Now, this thing measures by 2 different methods. One is what he's showing you now, which is the laser method. And this is safe for eyes, but he won't aim it at any of you, so don't get freaked out. But this is safe. It's not one of those lasers that's not. And it'll shoot a distance to the wall based on a laser measurement. Don't tell me the thing. All right, is it shoot it? It doesn't like white. Turn on something that's not white. Go and shoot it. Yeah, it's got 2 modes. One mode is reflectorless, which means we don't need anything else there, and we can shoot a distance to anything that has a surface on it. So anybody want to guess the distance on that? How far away is that from the instrument? You. 2 or 3 feet. How many think she's right? Anybody else have a better guess? Well, not a better guess, another guess. Who have I haven't called on you, have I? All right, how about you? 13 feet. How far is it, Mr. Gregg?
24.5 feet.
24.5 feet. How accurate is that?
That is very accurate.
It's very accurate. We're measuring that to hundredths of a foot, so it's very accurate. Now, we have another method. This is the newer technology. The older technology, we had to have one of these everywhere we shot a distance. This is called a prism. And this gun will shoot, it does shoot, because this does both methods. This is the newer gun. Shoots an invisible wavelength of light. And it returns that light back here and based on distance. So this is called a prism. And so, I don't know if you've seen the survey from the side of the road, but typically they have a rod. It looks like a candy cane, red and white stripes, and they're walking around with one of these things. And again, accurate angle and distance, everything they shoot. Then they generate from that coordinate. How many of you know what a coordinate is?
All of their hands should be up. It was on your math test yesterday.
Really? Well, everything we map is surveyed becomes a coordinate. Everything. Everything we use with GPS